How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be covering some of my live Legend League attacks of the final day of the season. As you can see, I finished top 200 and top 20 in the world, which is my personal best, which I'm really pleased about. But on top of that, I'll be giving you guys some tips and tricks on pushing in Legends and what I think are important and probably overlooked aspects of pushing. But before we begin, I want to say that I'm really pleased about some of the win traders getting banned at the end of last season, but there still has been a few that slipped under the radar. In particular, this guy who finished number 7 global, and he win traded 1 defense on the final day, which I've seen from the Discord bot. And on top of that, here's a screenshot of him asking for win trades in the win trader group chat. So hopefully this guy gets banned this season, because yeah, some slipped under the radar, and I'm sure there's been a few more that that didn't get banned. But I'm hoping that they do get banned eventually at some point during the season. So yeah, we'll see. So for the very first tip, I think it's one of the more important and maybe underlooked aspects of Legend League push is making sure you get your 7 hours of sleep in. I think having a clear mental state is very important and goes a very long way in execution of your attacks, especially if you're running Fireball into Rocketloons where you have to multitask. I think multitasking takes a really big hit if you don't get your 7 hours of sleep in, if you're tired or whatever. But honestly, it goes for pretty much any single strategy out there. If you're running Root Riders into, or Spirit Charge into Root Riders, you might misjudge your invisibility timing. You might misjudge the pathing that the RC is going to take. So you might misplace the invis. So it kind of applies to every single strategy out there at the moment. Just being sluggish in general is a result of just not getting enough sleep, making silly errors which cost you attacks. So I think, as I said, it's one of the most important aspects of pushing. Just making sure you get the good hours of sleep in, you're not too tired. And kind of stemming from that, I think, personally, I don't like to attack early in the morning. Unless I'm fully awake, I've had my breakfast and my coffee. But as well as that, I don't like to attack late at night because, for obvious reasons, you might feel a little bit tired. You might not have the focus that you would if you were to attack, in the morning or in the afternoon. But that's just my personal preference. For tip number 2, and by the way, these are in no particular order whatsoever. I think every tip that I will give throughout this video kind of is as equally as important as one another. But another overlooked aspect of pushing, I think, is getting your warm-up attacks done. I think that's very important. I try to get in 2 to 3 friendly challenges before I go into Legends. Now, I don't do warm-up attacks every single day. If it's the start of the season or mid-season, let's say in the first couple of weeks, I don't really do that many try-hard attacks. So, mid-season, I might not do any friendly challenges before attacking, but in the final week of the season, for sure, getting in a 2 to 3 friendly challenges is very important to me. If I'm feeling a little bit sluggish still, I would, take my time and do even more friendly challenges until I'm feeling comfortable, warden charging and multitasking the attack. But yeah, as I was saying, that's very important, and I think it has happened to a lot of people where they miss the first attack, and after the first attack they go perfect, and you might wonder why. Well, it's because you basically used your first attack as a warm-up attack, and doing that first attack in the friendly challenge, I think, is a better way to do it, rather than failing in the first attack of the day. Okay, going in, we have actually one of my bases from the Legend League subscription that I have. This is actually the base that I'm running at the moment for end of season. But I've already attacked this base. I mean, fireballing the Rage Spell Tower gets really good value, and also Flame Flinger at the top side. I think that's quite nice. Let's snipe this out first, though. Set up the Flame Flinger. just like so. I know there's no Teslas there because I did not put them there, so I assume this guy has the same exact traps. And I'm not sure if he has the same traps. Yeah, he does. Okay. So, yeah, let's aim for that Rage Spell Tower, as I was saying. Snipe this out, just in case. Yeah, there is a Tesla farm here, isn't there? Like so, we did not get the Queen, so she's gonna have to freeze her over a little bit here. And let's see, let's wait and see. I mean, the Warden should go to the top side, which will be, or to the bottom, towards the King. That'll be nice. And let's see, can we get a wall break here? Oh yeah, there is a few skelly traps here for sure as well. Let's get rid of those real quick and start the hero dive. I think the King has locked onto the Warden, so we're just gonna send in a Headhunter that way. Okay, yeah, this can funnel that. Let's poison that up. Pop the King, just to get rid of that Crusher Mortar, because that thing hits pretty hard, especially when it's raged up. Pop the Queen, let's rage up the Warden. Maybe a bit of an overkill with the freeze and the rage combination, but all good. Sending the RC, and yeah, we should be good to go. For tip number 3, and I think this is actually a very, very overlooked aspect of pushing, and I haven't heard it mentioned by many others, but whenever a fail occurs, take a breather and take a break. Don't go rushing back into the next attack, because you're more than likely going to fail again. So having that self-control to just take a break, quit out of the game, go do something else for at least, 5 minutes, do something else, let your heart rate settle. I think the reason why this happens to us is when you attack and you fail, you have an elevated heart rate, and you're more than likely to make a rash and stupid decision in the next attack while your heart rate is still elevated. Taking a breather, letting the nerve kind of settle down a little bit, I think makes a huge difference. And actually, I use this kind of technique in my final day of the season, where some of the attacks were very, very close, including this one in particular, the one that I'm sharing. Very close attacks, elevated heart rate. I just quit out of the game and I just take a breather, go for a walk, something like that. Do something else other than, going back into the attack. Having that self-control, I think, is very important and is going to make a huge difference to your push, especially in the final week. As I was saying, in the final week or two, that's when you should try to, take breathers and not go in right away, right after a fail. Now, for tip number 3, and this one is a little bit more obvious than the others, but paying attention to defense makes a massive difference, because quite frankly, not a lot of people actually do it. A lot of people just set, some bases that they find online. They don't pay attention to trap placements or anything like that. And I think traps is what sets apart the good bases from the average bases. Trap placement makes a huge difference. Obviously, base layouts do make a difference also. But if you have a good base layout, it does not mean it's going to defend if it has, very badly placed traps. So a good base needs to have good trap set, and in order for you to set good traps, you need to know exactly what the common entries are into the base. So, by paying attention to your defense log, you can kind of gauge where the common entries are, and you can trap accordingly. Now, also defense is probably the hardest thing in Clash of Clans at the moment due to the ease of the meta. So if you're not willing to put in effort and time into, overlooking every single defense and trying to trap entries and test entries, uh, make sure to get a Legend League subscription. If you're serious about pushing, get a Legend League subscription. That's going to save you a lot of time and effort. And yeah, there's a bunch of servers out there, and I'll link a bunch of them in the description of this video. I also have my own one, but feel free to check out other ones. A lot of options out there at the moment, and yeah, that's definitely going to save you a lot of hassle when trying to defend. Okay, double poison. This one is, let's see, I mean, we get really good fireball value where this mortar crusher is. I mean, fireballing the ricochet cannon is really good value. So I think I'm gonna go for that. And yeah, I see the CC is a little bit offset, so maybe going in from the top side makes a little bit more sense. That way the wooden can actually avoid the flank castle. Okay, I see. I'm just gonna do a test rocket loon just to, check if there's any more Teslas or if there's any more traps, because you see that guy had quite a few. Do that. Quake that out. Maybe I could have actually gone for a more, a little bit of a greedier fireball potentially on that defense that was beside the minion prince, like in the middle. But it's okay. We'll have the warden go this way. And let's start setting up the heroes. Queen is dealt with. Very nice. Start that. I don't want to get rid of this ricochet cannon as well, if possible. Alright, headhunter in that CC. Get rid of that. King ability is going to be forced here soon. So let's send in the 2 druids. Quite a bit of base still left. Okay, we get a good wall break though. Nice. Try to pull the warden over. Invising the queens. The warden is going to join here though. That's not ideal. Okay, I have 1 freeze. I'll use that on the Inferno. And I think we're good here. Kind of a little bit dodgy, just because the warden actually went into the core of the base, which I tried to pull him out, but yeah, he still followed the queen clones, I think. Or the king. Yeah. Now, the next tip for the 5th one, it might be, again, a little bit more obvious, but also might be overlooked by some others. Find the army that works best for you and stick to it. Don't continue to switch out the army every 2 days, especially in the final 2 weeks of the season. So you want to find the army that works for you. Test different armies at the very start of the season. You have 2 weeks to test different armies out to see what works best. If there's any kinds of balance changes that have taken place, you have 2 weeks basically, 2 to 3 weeks even, to kind of find what works for you. And once you find that army, stick to it, master it, and use it at the end of the Legends season, so for the final week at the very least. For example, for me, there was balance changes when it came down to hook towers. I had to switch over from the Sneezy from the Jelly, because I felt that the Warden was getting pulled into these hook towers way too often when I ran the Jelly. And I did my testing kind of in the first couple of weeks of the season, and by then I kind of had an idea of how to, play the Sneezy, and yeah, I just stuck to it, and it worked out pretty well. So yeah, that's another thing. Stick to an army that works for you. If there's any balance changes, make sure you test the army and tweak it accordingly in the first 2 weeks. For tip number 6, and this is less of a tip, it's more something that you should try to keep in mind when pushing because it can be very discouraging, seeing good offensive numbers on your side, but getting that bad defensive result. Luck plays a massive factor in this game. Unfortunately, the ease of the meta just enables pretty much anyone to get 300, at least 300 on average over the duration of the season. So, yeah, you're basically relying on lower level players or, players that might not be as comfortable at attacking as, the top players because defending top players is pretty much impossible. You can imagine, if a player goes 315 on average during a season, the chances of you defending that player is pretty slim no matter what base you use. So, you know, you're relying on the matchmaking algorithm to match you up with someone that is lower level and also miss defenses. That's a huge part. I got 2 missed defenses on the second last day on my account that finished top 20, and that propelled my account from top 1000 into top 15. So think about that. And the next day, I got a 1-star defense on it as well. So I got double lucky, or triple lucky, you can say, by missing 2 defenses and catching a 1-star defense in the final 2 days of the season, which is how I actually finished inside the top 20. But you don't actually have to get missed defenses in order to achieve rank. I think on my main account, I didn't miss any defenses throughout the season, just really solid defensive scores and a really solid offensive score as well. Okay, we get a base that, yeah, the style of base you would see a lot last season. This one, interesting. This guy has spitters here. Okay. That's not, that's a bit tricky because that spitter might be annoying for my warden. So I might go for the X-bow. And yeah, that X-bow beside the fire spitter, I'm gonna fireball that, probably. But I have to be careful, obviously, to not mess anything up. How many invis is this gonna take? A few. So let's do this. Make sure we quake. Well, I missed one building, but that's fine. Okay, we triggered the NATO, which is really good. Now the issue here is, okay, the warden is going left. He should go right again, I think. It looks like he will at least, right? The issue is, yeah, this fire spitter is gonna pick off my healers, so I'm gonna reach the warden up, so that way, he can get through that as quickly as possible. We get rid of one. One multi-arch tower. I need this warden to stay up here. He's already invested 2 spells into him. He should stay up, I think. Yeah, he's gonna stay up. I'm trying to wall break in as well. Okay, he's chilling. So let's pop the king ability to open up the core. Let's try to funnel everything in. Have 1 rage compartment left, which, well, with no spells, it might be a little bit trickier than I might think. So let's just stay patient. Let's make sure we get rid of this queen here. Use the RC, 45. Hopefully not let that rage reactivate. Yeah, a bit tricky with that little tweak that this guy made with the spitters, but yeah, there we go. For tip number 7, and before we get into this, this attack was done on my top 20 reset account, and it was one of the final attacks on the final day. I unfortunately failed this attack, and Yeah, I got a little bit too confident, I think. I saw this base and I was like, I've tripled this base so many times. It's going to be an easy triple. I'm just going to hit the fire spitter and I'm just going to walk away with an easy 40. But yeah, unfortunately not. But it didn't have an effect on my final ranking too much. I don't think I would have gotten a single digit finish even if I tripled that. But yeah, getting into tip number 7 is have a nice setup of your army screen. Now, by that, I mean, as you can see, I have a double deployment bar at the bottom of the screen. I don't have to scroll between troops and units to select them. So if you have a long army list, for example, if you're using Fireball into Rocketloons, try to use the double deployment bar if you have an iPad. Unfortunately, this feature is not available on phones. It is available on tablets, so make sure you have that enabled. As well as that, you should play with sound. Now, I think sound is, again, greatly underrated. It helps me multitask quite a lot. I'll give a couple of examples. I always say, like, for example, if you have a flame flinger that you use and you hear a skeleton spell popping up, you'll be able to hear it, if you're not keeping an eye out on it. As well as Teslas, if there's a Tesla that pops up, you'll be able to hear it. Whenever you're warden charging, for example, if there's a monolith that locks onto your warden, you'll be able to hear the warden being targeted by it. And CC pulls as well. You can hear the CC being pulled. It helps. And variety of things, honestly. The heroes locking on as well. That you can hear that kind of sound that they make when they lock on to your troops. So that's, again, something that isn't really looked at, or people don't really pay attention to it, but I think it helps a lot. For me, I notice a huge difference when I play without sound. I really find it a lot harder to multitask. So turn on in-game sound. I keep the music off. I think it's just distracting and unnecessary, but in-game sound is really nice. Lastly, I think having screen shake turned off is really nice. It's another setting that I think everyone should switch off because it's unnecessary. Every time a mortar shot lands, your screen shakes for no reason. Every time a giant bomb goes off, the screen shakes for no reason. So yeah, I think everyone should turn that off as well. And yeah, those are my preferred settings at least. So play around with those and see if it actually improves your gameplay.